Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Today's video features late night knock at the door stories. You know how terrifying that is when you're all safe and sound in your home. You're ready for bed, ready to start another day tomorrow, and someone knocks on your door. Immediately your heart begins to race. All your fears come up to the surface. Will you answer? Will they keep knocking? Story number 1. Several years ago, I moved into my first apartment by myself. It was my first time living in a large apartment complex, which was very old and in a relatively known dangerous county right outside a major U.S. city. This event happened one night after work in the winter time. So it was already dark outside by the time I parked my car in the large parking lot in front of the complex. I had just turned off my car and was grabbing my purse when I noticed another car with its brights on pull into the spot right next to me. I thought this was odd, considering the parking lot was very large and nearly empty, and I had parked a fair distance from the entrance of the building. I thought it was a little weird, but didn't give it another thought. I got out of my car, pretended not to notice their car, and started walking to my building. Roughly 10 steps later, I heard a car door slam shut, and I briefly glanced behind me to see a very large, older man walking in my direction towards the apartments. Everything felt off, like something was wrong and I was in danger. I remember feeling like my heart dropped into my stomach. My hands felt unsteady. I tried to come out of it by telling myself how irrational I was. There was no reason at all this should make me feel scared, and he was probably just another one of the many tenants here. But I could still not shake that feeling as I kept walking towards my building. I took a few more steps, and suddenly I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was panicking so hard. It was like I wasn't even in control of my body, and I started to walk faster and faster until I was literally sprinting into the apartment complex and towards the stairwell to make it to the 3rd floor as quickly as possible. My body didn't care that I was freaking out over what seemed like a normal occurrence. It was just urging me to go faster and faster. I made it to my 3rd floor landing before my fears realized, and I heard the door to the bottom of the stairwell slam open and bang forcefully against the wall, followed by a sound of someone sprinting up the stairs madly. I ran the remaining feet to my door, which was thankfully just a couple doors down, and started to struggle with my keys. It was like a scene from a horror movie. I was shaking so badly I couldn't get the key in the stupid hole, turning it upside down, right side up, and upside down again, not getting it to fit. This whole time I could still hear someone sprinting up the stairs. Big, loud steps that seemed to be just on the verge of opening the door, just a few feet from me. And my hands just couldn't stop shaking. Finally the key fit, the door flung open, and I shut it immediately, followed by deadbolting the door. I was frozen for a good 10 seconds. I didn't make any noise in my pitch-black apartment, and I certainly didn't hear anything outside. I turned the light onto my apartment and tried to calm myself down. I thought to myself that it was probably just some stupid idiot trying to get home quickly, and that the person in the parking lot may not have even been the same person running up the stairs. Maybe it was just a kid. I just read too many scary stories, right? I was just being paranoid. After 20 minutes, I was feeling like an idiot for panicking like I did, but I still could not shake that hair raised on the back of your neck feeling. I started searching the entire apartment and turning on every light to ease my mind. Nothing out of the usual. I then decided to check out the front door just to ease my anxiety, since it seemed to get worse any time I even glanced in that direction, and took a quick look through the peephole. I felt all the air go out of my lungs as I completely froze. Looking straight back at me was the same man from the parking lot. He was standing just several inches from the door, not looking confused or drunk, but serious and calm with a slight grin on his face, like he was in on a secret. He was standing so still and was just staring at my door. It had to have been at least 25 minutes now since I first made it into my apartment, and he must have been standing there the entire time. I was frozen for a good minute before I very, very slowly backed away and locked myself in the bathroom. I panicked and wasn't sure whether to call 911, when I changed my mind last minute and called the local police station instead, since I reasoned I wasn't in imminent danger. It was still in the minds of me over-exaggerating the situation. The station said they would send someone over. I remember staying in the bathroom for at least another 10 minutes, and then getting the courage to look through the peephole again, just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't, and he was still standing there, unmoved with the same creepy expression. The police sent one guy who didn't show up for over an hour, and by the time he did, the man was gone, along with his car. The thing that really gets me is the fact that he stood there for at least half an hour, not making any attempt to knock on the door or walk around the floor. I have no idea what his true intentions were, or what made him eventually change his mind and leave. I also hate to think how he knew that this was my apartment. Either I got the door open just in time for him to catch it closing, or he already knew who I was and where I lived. I moved out of the area a few months after this event, but I still feel that fear anytime I walk through any major parking lots at night or go into stairwells alone. So creepy man who stared at my door for way too long, let's not meet. Story number 2. This just happened today, and I am still terrified. I'd had my first driving lesson today, and I was very worn out after it. I'm also feeling pretty unwell, a bit nauseous as well as a sore throat and a cough. After the driving lesson, I came home, laid on the couch under a cozy blanket, and began practicing some driving theory from apps I downloaded. I was home alone. This means there were no cars in the driveway or in front of my house, and I had the lights on low as my front room receives a lot of light from the large front window. I'd been sitting there for almost 2 hours, barely moved, when I heard an aggressive knock on the front door. The postman had already been, and we weren't waiting on any packages to be delivered. I also hadn't heard a car pull up. This made me assume it was someone selling something. Recently, our village has been somewhat bombarded with charity workers who, once finished their spiel, tell you that they can't accept cash donations, but instead you have to sign up for a direct debit and pay at least €12 a month. Being sick and tired and too embarrassed to reject another charity worker, I stayed put and hoped they'd leave. They knocked twice more, increasingly more loudly than the time before. Eventually I heard them walk down the front steps, so I crept to the front window to peer through and see who it was and where they went, except I couldn't see anybody. I've read enough creepy stories and seen enough scary movies that multiple scenarios wiggled at my mind, but as most people would do, I assumed nothing of it and decided to make myself lunch. I headed through the kitchen, which I should mention faces the backyard. We have both a large window and a set of patio doors. The curtains were open on both. I immediately caught something out of the corner of my eye, and my vision slid to the window, where I saw what looked like the top of someone's head, as if they were crouching down as they passed the window. I froze, but I let my eyes follow until I saw a person appear at the patio doors, clearly ready to attempt to enter. We made eye contact. He was a tall male, large build, wearing what looked like a tracksuit with a black jacket on top. As soon as he realized I was home, he bolted. I heard him run up the side of my house, so I ran to the front again, where I see him continue to sprint down the street and out of sight. Story number 3. This happened to me just last Tuesday, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'll start this story by saying I'm a 30-year-old female who lives with my fiance and our 2 dogs. I have 2 huskies. One is 2 and one is 4 months old. My huskies are not guard dogs to save their lives. They don't bark nor howl. These dogs just love people so much. It's 8 p.m. It's dark out and I'm home alone. My fiance is at his weekly hockey game. I'm in the bathroom with the door closed and the blow dryer going, so I can't really hear anything going on around me. That is until I hear one of my dogs howl. I stop the blow dryer and listen, thinking that the dogs are fighting again. Then I heard a faint knock, and the dogs start going apeshit, barking, howling, jumping into the bay window, so hard that I thought they were going to break it. I'm thinking, what the hell is making them go so crazy like that? Maybe a dog or a skunk. I look out my bedroom window, as it was the closest view to the front door for me. Lo and behold, there's 2 men in hoodies, standing at the front door. They start knocking louder, and this time my 2-year-old husky jumps from the bay window to the front door, starts growling and ramming his body into the door. I'm watching this from my bedroom. As the dogs jump into the door, one of the men jumps back startled, looks at the other man, and they slowly walk away. I called my fiance to get home as soon as possible. I watched them walk slowly away down the road. They weren't selling anything, as they didn't stop at any other houses. I was so creeped out, and I still am. Thank goodness for my crazy dogs. Scary men at my door. Let's never meet again. Story number 4. I am a 5'4" female. This story took place one day when I was home alone at night, because my parents had gone to grab some things for our home, and at one of those stores that runs until midnight. After my parents had left, I started watching some TV and eating the rest of what was left of dinner. Once I got really engrossed in a show, I completely forgot what was going on in the real world, so I was startled when I heard a knock on the door. Thinking that it was my parents who might have decided to come home early, I went and looked through the peephole. What I saw instead of my parents was a man in his late 50s, maybe even early 60s. Now, I decided that I was just going to be brave, so I called through the door and asked if I could help him. My voice is always a bit shaky when answering the door, or even if I'm answering the phone, so the man must have known I was scared. He claimed that his phone had died and his wife would be worried if he didn't call back, and if he could just use my phone for 1 second. There was a part of me that wanted to run and hide, but I decided to be brave and pretend someone other than me was home. I called out to my dad, who of course wasn't home, and said, "My dad will take care of it for you, sir." He hastily said, "Oh, never mind, I don't want to trouble you guys any further. I have about 2% on my phone. I'll make the call myself." My heart was still racing, but once again I pretended to call out to my mom and told her he didn't need the phone after all. After he had left, I made sure the doors were locked as tightly as possible, sat down to finish my show. Not even 10 minutes later, there was another knock on the door. This time I was sure it was my parents, so I ran towards the door. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw an old woman around the same age as the man. Now I thought it might have just been someone in my building my mom knew, so I called out and asked if she needed help. After a short pause, the woman claimed that she had hurt her knee, and if she could come in and get some ice. That's when I felt chills run down my body, and I knew for sure I wasn't going to let her in. Some of you might think I was overreacting, but something just seemed so off, so I told her I was going to call the police. She screamed that I was a rude, ungrateful bitch, and that I shouldn't be so rude to a sweet old lady like her. After the lady had left, I heard a car start up and take off at a relatively fast speed. After I calmed down, I called my parents and told them the story, and they said they would be home within 5 minutes. So to all of you, please be careful who you open the door for, and question the sympathy stories they tell. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share some more, and subscribe for future content. Email me your stories at thesinfulsavant@gmail.com to have them featured in upcoming videos. My email is in the description box below. Till we meet again, stay sinful.